this is the Captain's Table. This is an interview between Randy Simmrin and Craig Bell. Coach Bell, I just want to thank you for being a key part of my life as a young player and my development. It was really special, and I really appreciate that. It's also been great reconnecting with you, and I just want to thank you for everything you did for me when I was a young kid.
Well, Randy, it was my pleasure to coach somebody with the abilities you had and the determination you had. One of the most determined high school football players I ever coached.
Maybe a little more determined than ability, but
you had both, which is why you had the success you had at USC and beyond.
Well, thank you, Coach. You know, that was over 50 years ago.
Oh, well over 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I got my start in student teaching at Centa Valley High School.
Yeah, tell me about that.
In the Los Angeles area. And I student taught with a college buddy of mine, a gentleman named Hudson Houck, D-line coach for the Dallas Cowboys and USC Trojans for a number of years.
I remember him. Yeah.
And we both got started, but I coached football with him there under Gordon Warnock, but my student teaching and most of my work was done with a gentleman named Ed Gorgon, the basketball coach. And Coach Gorgon was one of the best basketball coaches the Southern CIF has ever seen.
Absolutely.
The man was amazing. He was just remarkable. And coached a very good friend of yours, Brad Allwood.
Yep.
But he just did a great job. But he mentored me and led me along and showed me the do's and don'ts and most everything that I started out with in coaching, and probably well over half of it that continued on with me was things I learned from Ed Gorgon.
Wow.
I mean, it was just a wealth of information and how to handle kids and situations and build confidence and structure. I was very fortunate to have him. Did a super job. And then I couldn't get a job at Centa Valley. They were full. And he helped get me a job at Burrows. He got me the interview with Bob Donovan.
Well, you know, maybe it's just me, but I think those years, you know, when that group of Viking kids came up that I played with in 72 and 73,
at Burrows,
you were a big part of that. I think that was the start of where Burrows football started to become dominant there.
Burrows had a great season back in about 67 or 68. And then for whatever, and I wasn't there, I was still in school. For whatever reason, they collapsed. My first year at Burrows, we were 0-9. And then, to the head coach's credit, we all sat down. He went after the Pop Warner. He went and got Pop Warner coaches like Armstrong. He got to know your dad and brought all those people in. And then in a couple of years, we were able to take that 0-9 and turn it around into championship football teams. And like you said, that's exactly what happened. That was the beginning.
It's a great group of guys. And
it's really, we should have won a CIF title, but weird things happen sometimes. And quarterback gets hurt one time and just crazy stuff. So, but a lot of great players on that team. Curtis Ely, another wide receiver, Mike Stewart. Just to speak of the quality of you and Stewart, we had a Randy Stage.
Randy Stage, yeah, Mike Stewart.
Wasn't even a starter at Burrows. And a couple of years later, he was the leading receiver in junior college football in California at Glendale College.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the best receiver in the state in junior college, and he was second string at Burrows. So that would tell you the quality we had, and the kid throwing to
receivers
was amazing. So it was a really good experience. I met a lot of great players, super players with you, Bobians and the AJ Brick and a multitude of others, Leo Diaz, guys like that. And then after you graduated a little later on, the Jairo Panarandas, the Mike McDonalds.
Yeah.
A kid I took in and raised, John Kerrigan. And one of my favorite names, had a very good football player, Cesar Angabaldo.
Oh, yeah. I remember Cesar.
I love Cesar, but I loved his name even more. He was a great guy. Bobian was probably the best running back we ever had.
Craig was good.
He was very good. He did a very good job. And Curtis hadn't hurt his knee in the playoff game in the quarterfinals. We would have won that game at Burrows and gone on and probably won the CIF title.
I think so. And
Because
Curtis would have
probably
been in position.
the best team in the playoffs we were going to play was La Mirada, and we'd already beaten them. They were undefeated,
Yep.
practically unscored upon when we played them.
No, they were unscored upon. They hadn't scored it. Nobody had scored a touchdown against them.
Oh, I think somebody scored. When I say unscored upon, I think somebody scored a
Somebody
field goal or a safety or something.
right, but nobody scored a touchdown. Yeah, they were
They
good.
were number one or number two in the whole freaking 3A. So I mean, they were huge.
We kind of shocked them that night. Yeah.
Whoa, did we ever shock them? They didn't. They thought they were playing a junior high, and they ended up playing the LA Rams.
Yeah, we had a great game.
And you know what? We had better talent in some spots than they did. They had some monsters up front and inside, though.
They couldn't
They
handle
were
our
really
skill
good.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had the good skill guys. And another great player we had at Burrows, Ronnie Waller.
Oh yeah, what a nice guy that Ron Waller is too.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is he's too nice a guy.
Yeah.
He went to UCLA, but Ronnie just wasn't cut out for the. College is a little bit more business-like than high school.
A little nastier, let's say.
And a little nastier, and Ronnie just wasn't into that.
Yeah, I forgave him, by the way, for going to UCLA. So
yeah, but what was Ronnie, 6'4", 270 or something?
Oh yeah,
he was a big boy and he could run.
Yeah, he was
good guy. But some very good football teams. Some of the goofy stuff that happens. Mike McDonald was a deep snapper, one of the best probably the best I've ever seen in my lifetime. And his last deep snap in high school was against Centa Valley, and he centered it clear over the punter's head and through the goalpost behind him. It's about a 40-yard snap. And I'm in the Coliseum watching SC play a year later, and he comes out on the field for SC's first punt, and wouldn't you know it, he centered it right over the kicker's head, clear back into the end zone.
I remember it well.
Last snap in high school, first snap in college, and they're both over the guy's head. It was hilarious. And then, about a year later, the guy student taught with, coach comes by, and he's looking for Mike McDonald because the Dallas Cowboys are out a deep snapper. He got hurt. We go out and find Mike on the golf course and get him a job. And between Dallas and then the LA Rams, he spent, I believe, 6 years in the NFL.
Yeah.
And did an amazing job. It's crazy the way things happen.
It sure is. So, Coach, tell me about your move to San Diego after Burrows.
Yeah, well, Bob Donovan left for a couple of years, took a sabbatical and all that, which is why I got the job at such an early age at Burrows. And we did pretty well, playoffs each year and stuff. But he came back, and 2 head coaches on his staff just wasn't working. So I started looking for a job. I almost went to Valley College, not too far from Burrows, Sherman Oaks, I believe. But instead I picked up an interview for a job at a place called San Diego High School in Encinitas, California, in San Diego, North County, and did a good job on the interview, got that, and also got the athletic director's job because they were impressed with my interview. And strangely enough, the thing that got me the jobs was the story that I told them. They asked me about what was the thing in my life that was probably most influential in the way I coached and what I did. And I explained to them I was at USC playing baseball, and I quit. And I was embarrassed of that. I was hurt. It was something I said to myself I'd never do again. I shouldn't have done it then, but once I had done it, I couldn't retract it. And that thing was so instrumental in my life, it changed my entire approach to living and coaching and everything else, and gave me new meaning, and probably gave me the motivation to become a fairly good coach.
Sounds like somebody there got it.
So we did. And then we got the job at San Diego. They had won 1 game in 2 years. And that first year, and they'd never beaten their new school crosstown rival, Torrey Pines. So we had been told, I had an assistant superintendent after I got the job, calls me in and he goes, Craig, you'll do just fine in this job, and nobody's going to really care about your wins and losses as long as you beat Torrey Pines. But he said, I can tell you right now, if you go 2 years and don't beat them, they'll fire you. I said, thanks a lot. And Torrey Pines was like the league champion the year before.
Yeah, it was a good program, yeah.
And San Diego had gone over and won 1 game. And I think we beat them 5 years in a row till we finally lost to them. A coach by the name of Ed Burke came to town and got us one year. But we didn't lose the Torrey Pines for quite a while. And those kids that were over 2 years later were in the semifinals against Morse. I believe we were 12-2 was our 11-2 was probably our seasonal record. Lost one during the season and one in the playoffs. And our 10-2, 11-2, I don't know, 13 games. So anyway, we lost to Morse and we could have won it, but we just, they had a little bit more going for them. But those kids got to the semis. And then I made a mistake that I didn't make again, but had the whole school moving in the right direction. Everybody fired up, the principal behind me, everything going. And there was a lot of politics going on I didn't understand between the principal and the superintendent. And they were trying to get rid of that principal. And I was attached at the hip to that guy. He was really nice. And the school and everything just, I let it go, thinking everything would be in line and just go crazy, and relaxed a little. And it went right back to being a dump, and we went right back to struggling. Yeah. And I did different favors, and I helped. And as the athletic director, I had to help out. We had a softball coach that made a bad mistake and got fired. And so I had to clean up the season for him. And we got the girls. Then I went a second season. We got the girls and softball girls in the playoffs. And we're in the playoffs, and I'm at Palomar College getting ready for a playoff game. And the against Vista High, it was actually a conference playoff to go to the playoffs. And the principal and the athletic director come over to see me and say, would you consider giving up your job at San Quito, coming over to Vista? We need an assistant coach to help Dick Haynes, a very famous coach in southern San Diego County, and helping him for 2 years. And if you do, Rancho Buena Vista is going to open, and we'll make sure you're the brand new head football coach at the new high school. And I jumped at that opportunity. And I worked with Dick for 2 years, and we were, 13 and 13 is 20. We were 25-1. We lost the very last game I coached there to a team we'd already beaten once. That stuff happens.
Okay. Needless to say, you guys had a little success there, huh?
Yeah, 25 straight.
That's nice.
And we had some pretty good football players. The one that everybody would know for sure, because he went to the University of Colorado, and they made a 30 for 30 on ESPN about him, and everything else is a kid named, when he was a gentleman named Sal Anesi.
Yeah, I remember.
Who passed away of cancer.
Yeah.
And had a baby with the head coach's daughter.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, it's in the 30 by 32. They don't hide it. They say it. But
yeah,
Sal was a guy. I mean, Sal was a goofy, but boy, what a talent.
That's what I hear.
But we had lots of talent like that. I mean, we really had some. The others kind of struggled when they went off, but they were great running. I mean, we had a running back from Carlsbad transfer in, and he was the offensive player of the year in Carlsbad's Avocado League. I believe we were in the Palomar, and he transferred in, and he had to play free safety. He wasn't good enough to play in the backfield for us.
Wow.
Our running backs were too good. The year he transferred in, we had a kid named Tommy Booker who ended up going to San Diego State. Tommy was a rocket, really good. Before him, it was Roger Price, who went to BYU, but neither of them are great shakes. A lot of Vista kids went to college, even from Rancho Buena Vista after I got there. They just struggled when they got to college.
Interesting.
I don't know whether we coddled them too much in high school or what, but and we didn't coddle them. So we were pretty hard on them.
So now you're starting from scratch at Rancho Buena Vista, right?
Rancho Buena Vista was scratch. I remember sitting down. We had to sit down with, it was fun. Sit down and order all the helmets, come up with the designs, the logo. I remember sitting in with the principal on the color schemes, maroon, silver, and white. So we're at RBV, and, I got to sit down and order all, 200 of this and 200 of that, all brand new helmets, all shoulder pads, come up with logos, color schemes. I sat in on the meeting with the principal and the AD when we decided what the school colors would be. I sat in with them when we decided that we were going to be called the Rancho Buena Vista Longhorns.
Nice.
And then we came up with a moniker called the Ranch. And I found in one of those books when you're looking through them, I came up with a logo, which was kind of like a half moon kind of thing. And it was Texas with a longhorn underneath it and the horns going out through the Texas. And we just changed that to the Ranch.
Nice.
And put it on there and changed the longhorn a little bit so they didn't get mad about that. And then we used that. We put the longhorn on the side of the helmet and maroon, silver, and white, and away we went.
After a short break, we'll be right back to the captain's table. Away you went. It didn't take you very long to.
Our first year, we did not call that our first year, even though we played a full season with juniors. We missed the playoffs by missing a field goal in the 9th game of the season. And other than that, we would have gone to the playoffs our first year with the JV team because we had no seniors. But we didn't have a banquet. We didn't do anything. We ahead of time had told everybody the end of that first season is just midseason. That's the beginning. That next year with seniors is the finish.
Right.
And that's the way we approached it. We gave no awards away. We had no banquets. We had banquets for the JV and for the Frosh, but not for the varsity. And when we came back, we brought everybody back off that team. We had one corner that moved, and another corner came in who was probably a better player anyway. And we had all those kids. We had 21 starters back, and that team went undefeated with a backup quarterback. Because our quarterback that should have been our quarterback that year, who ran us on the JV team, was Dave Roberts, the manager of the LA Dodgers.
Yeah.
Yeah, he should have been the quarterback, but he hurt his knee, which is what got him into baseball because he tried to come back and play. He was always a baseball player, but football was his love. And he tried to come back and play, and he just couldn't do it. So he sat that year out, played baseball, and was really successful. And then came back as a senior. But in that year, we had a gentleman named Eddie Hoffman, backup quarterback, and Eddie did everything that I asked him to do and then some. And with all that pressure, he handled it very well. We went 13-0 that year, had a heck of a season. We were league champions, San Diego CIF champions, and State of California 2A state champions.
Wow.
Number 2 team that year was Modern Day, and the number 3 team was De La Salle. We were all in 2A football.
Wow.
And we got there because Oceanside High School beat Modern Day in Santa Ana Bowl early in the year. And 2 weeks later, they played us, and we smacked them, which moved us to number 1 in the state. And we stayed there. They didn't have a playoff system back then.
And this is the second year Rancho Buena Vista is in existence.
Second year they're in existence, but still, as we called it, our first year of football. But
right.
Technically, it was our second year of football, yes.
Right, because the first year you had all juniors.
Right.
Basically.
Now I got a, coach of the year stuff and all that baloney. But
I can imagine. But
doing that, and then the team the next year might have been better. I mean, I don't know where it all came from, but we were blessed with just an amazing array of talent. I mean, even today, if you look at the rushing leaders in the CIF book, and I haven't looked at it, I'll bet you in the top 10, we still have 3 guys.
Wow.
And they played together all in 3 years. They were amazingly talented, just really, really good. But, they averaged like 8-10 yards a carry. We had some pretty good linemen too. But I was blessed with great coaches, just great, great coaches. Like I was at San Diego when Steve Armstrong and John Cannon went from Burrows down to San Diego with me. I was able to come up with,
those guys can coach.
I had a linebacker coach who just spent 2 years as a GA at San Diego State. Our D-line coach had been at Montana State for a year. The D coordinator had been the D coordinator at El Camino. Herb Meyer and one of the better teams in the San Diego area for a number of years. I mean, he's a legend too. And Tommy Hammond took his spot. And then J.G. Egeter from Montana and Dale Henry from San Diego State. That was our defensive staff.
I remember J.G. from Palomar College.
Yep. And then I had, he's funny.
Yeah.
J.G.'s a good friend. He's funny. And then on offense, And it's a new school, so you could hire all these guys. On offense, I had Bob Woodhouse, who'd had a bout with alcoholism. I mean, that's the guy who called me 2 years before that over Christmas break and goes, Craig, where can I put my motorhome? Do you know any places I can put my motorhome? I said, why? He said, my wife gave me a choice, drinking or her. He said, I'm taking the motorhome and drinking.
That's fine.
And about, 6 to 8 weeks later, they found him on the floor of his bus with acute alcohol poisoning.
Should listen to his wife.
And he went into the hospital and went through all his rehab and everything out, came back out, took a tour in his motorhome with his wife, came back and came to me and said, would you have me as a coach? I've got a coach. I'll start drinking again or something else. I need something to do. So he came out and coached, and we had a guard, very good guard. And all of a sudden I'm drawing a blank on his name, which is ridiculous. But Woodhouse coached him, and he was the first and only lineman to get Offensive Player of the Year in the CIF.
That's great.
Offensive guard got
amazing.
Offensive Player of the Year in the CIF.
Wow. Have to look that one
Now,
up.
we gave him a lot of that credit, but he did it. I mean, Jack Harrington. And Jack was struggling. He went to Hawaii on a scholarship. He was there a year, got mad at the coach, and came home. I mean, we just had 1,000 kids that did that.
Yeah, that happened.
And, and Jack was one of our good Samoan boys. So, and his dad worked for the school district. But Woodhouse did a great job with him, and he and I worked with the offense. And I took the offense, and I took enough of the stuff. When we got there, I took the stuff from Vista High and utilized it in the way I wanted to, but kept a lot of things common. So the kids who played freshman and JV football at Vista High recognized what they were doing. I felt that if they knew that stuff and realized that it worked, even though we were young and got beat up, they'd know we were just a year away. It wasn't because of what we were running.
Doesn't sound like you guys got beat up much, though.
And well, the first year we got beat up about 4 times, but we really got beat up by San Marcos. But other than that, we did pretty good. Tied Oceanside, first win in the high school, first win ever for the high school with juniors. El Camino and Herb Meyer. What a night. Oh, man. The week before that, we'd lost like 3 or 4 games in a row. And we talked to the kids, and we told the kids, hey, look at this game. You won this quarter. Okay, look at this game. You won 2 quarters. If you win 4 quarters, you're going to win a game. And this is an idea and things I got from Ed Gorgon. And we built their confidence by showing how they won it, whether they won it or not. Right. We showed them enough on film that they won it. Right. And we got them 3 quarters. And then when we played Oceanside, we went through that game and they said, look, we won 3.5 quarters and here's where we didn't get it done. And that's why it's a tie. If we win all 4 quarters, we'll win the next week. Lo and behold, we beat El Camino, and they were on a roll for quite a while. We did struggle a little with some adversity in 91. Some kids got misled and got picked up for robberies of surf shops. Unfortunately, 2 of our more prominent football players, and the quarterback and a linebacker. And, they were great kids. The principal wanted me to keep them. He said, hey, they're not going to go to court. They're not going to go to trial till football season's over. They haven't been convicted of anything. Keep them on the team. And, but the kids, they admitted to it.
Right.
They said, we did it. So, well, I know you did it. So I'm going to overlook it and just leave you on the team.
At least they were honest.
I couldn't do that. So,
Coach, your legacy at RBV it's living on today. Terrence McKinney.
Yeah, we had some, we had those couple of years where we had to live through that. We had an undefeated football team, and we had to go with a different linebacker. And I'm not talking just any linebacker. I'm talking 6'3", 230-pound Samoan linebacker and a 6'2", 220-pound Samoan quarterback. They were really outstanding young men who just got misguided.
Yeah.
But I had to leave them off the team, and the other guys who filled in were good people, but they just weren't the same kind of people. That's the first year we lost to Vista, by the way. And but we struggled there, and then we had a weak group coming through, so the next year we struggled. And then we were back at it. We lost in the semis. We went to the finals. We lost in the semis and so on. And right down to the last year. And last year, I believe we lost in the semis. The year I retired, we lost in the semis to Carlsbad, and probably a good thing. Carlsbad went on and played Fallbrook, and Fallbrook beat him by 35 points. So maybe that wouldn't have been a real special way to end it. But so we lost that one. But some really good football players, a whole bunch of kids that, went on to college. We were the first team to ever. De La Salle High School was on a 50-game win streak, and we scheduled a game with them and got them to play somebody outside their area and got them to come down to San Diego. We lost two, and we were ahead in both. But the first one's the one we should have won, but our quarterback got knocked goofy on a long run, had first and goal, and the quarterback had to stand next to me to check and see if he had, head problems. And he ended up back in the game, but it was too late by then. He didn't have a concussion, but he got bounced around pretty good. But that was an experience. And then De La Salle after that started moving on. And at that point also, we were playing with all those guys. At that point, Mater Dei and Servite and San Francisco, De La Salle, they all kind of elevated. They discovered recruiting.
Yeah.
And they all elevated to another level above us.
Boy, did they.
We were pretty good at our level, but they started recruiting and they just took off, and De La Salle ended up winning, 100 games before they lost or something.
Yeah.
The first school that was the biggie back then was Long Beach Poly. Long Beach Poly, Mater Dei, and De La Salle. Those were the three biggies in the state.
The only difference is Long Beach Poly doesn't really have to recruit.
No, but they were all over. There's like 4 or 5 high schools, and
right, and they just go there
in Long Beach, and they were getting the pick of the litter.
Yeah.
Of the minority kids, and it was really helping them out.
That's for sure.
And they had some good coaches back in the day, and they knew how to relate to kids, and they did a heck of a job.
We'll be right back to the captain's table.
Those were good old days. And then we had at the end of Rancho, best all-around athlete I ever coached was my last 2 years. Unfortunately, he didn't have the maturity at the time to help him out, but a kid named Justin Nelson. He was a 6'4" quarterback, left-handed, who could run like the wind. And as a sophomore, he was first team All-CIF, free safety. That's what kind of a football player that kid was.
Wow.
He was also a baseball player, and his mom wanted him to play baseball. So Nebraska was going to give him a football scholarship and let him participate in baseball, about 80%. He had it all worked out, and mom didn't want him playing football in college. So ended up getting a half scholarship to Cal, lasted a couple of years, signed to play baseball, and went the way of 98% of those guys, played 2 or 3 years and was done. But he did a good job. But I was really blessed with also a Rancho. The other thing was a blessing is I had a gentleman named Steve Reilly, who was the head coach at Borrego Springs, was also the student activities director, and went on to be a principal in a middle school in Vista in his later career. And he was just a superb freshman football coach, highly organized, right down to just what a freshman team needed. I mean, to the letter of the law. He evaluated his team. He took the parts of our offense that he thought was going to work that year. He'd apply it to his kids. It was could be fullback dominated or running back dominated or throw a little more. He'd evaluate, and he just did a super job. And we always had, at that time, a lot of opportunities to fill coaching jobs. I mean, I think when I opened Rancho, every coach I had, other than I had 3 or 4 walk-ons, but I had like 8 or 10 guys that were teaching there that were coaching. That's unheard of.
Yeah.
You wouldn't find 8 or 10 guys in 3 high schools now that are all teaching and coaching. And it worked out really well, and we had all those guys. And then I had a JV football coach who was also the head baseball coach, Steve Hargrave, and he went on to be athletic director and vice principal and ended up with a job in the district office. And they take that administrative stuff. Both of them did. They liked it, and the money it's real good money-wise for retirement and all that. But they were just a superior quality gentleman, and I was blessed.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying earlier about your legacy still being alive there, because the new head coach there is one of your guys, Terrence McKinney, and I'm helping Terrence with the freshmen, and I'm hoping that I can do the same job, that your freshman coach did. But your spirit's there, and we're hoping that some of that spirit that you brought there originally can come back.
Well, I had a great time at Burrows. It was a wonderful place to work for quite a while. And then the wheels kind of came off the wagon. And I don't know if the wheels have ever totally gone back on the wagon.
Yeah, I don't know. We got a 50-year reunion coming up.
I love that place. And we did not play a football game at Rancho.
No, not then. You didn't have a stadium, right?
No, we played every game at Vista High.
Yeah.
And we had a crew, and that crew went out and painted the field every week.
Nice.
Vista High would paint the field for their games, and we would paint over their paint and put our letters in there. When we took the field, we had a giant Longhorn logo in the middle of the field, and the end zone said RBV on both ends in maroon, silver, and white.
Nice.
And when they played, it said Vista in black and red in both end zones, because Dick Haynes was big on painting fields and making it look good. It was the only high school around that did it.
Yeah, they wanted
that was the principal organizer. I mean, to his credit, he organized all that and got everything going. And he was really, really supportive for quite a while. And then he, things change.
Yeah.
But you can always go online and look up Craig Bell and decide for yourself. But you'll find out the school district and I went to battle in court. So.
Well, I know you, Coach, and I appreciate you taking this time with me. I know you're busy with a lot of things in your home, and thank you for doing
I've enjoyed it. Can't say enough about Ed Gorgon. Can't say enough about the assistants that went with me, the kids that played for me, the assistant coaches that I had at Rancho, the lower level coaches I had. I've been blessed. And I think we had a very strong program. I think we started something that a lot of high schools and everything started to do. We started a thing, we called it Desert Storm. And we would take a lot of fundraising money that we raised and stuff, and we would take the entire staff, all 17 of them, and take them out to the desert in August, put them in a hotel. The hotel served breakfast, and, then we'd all go to dinner at night. And we had 2 really large rooms with big tables that seated about 8, and then all these other suites. It was the Embassy Suites in Palm Desert, and we would go out there for almost 4 days, and we would meet just to solidify everything that had been done. It was a review for the varsity coaches because they had been doing it, and it was last minute cramming and putting everything together for all of the assistant coaches. And Randy, we used to have a game we played on Saturday night. After dinner, we'd bring all the coaches back, and we'd divide the staff into offense and defense. And I would give the offense and the defensive play and a formation, and they would have to put the formation up, and then the next guy would have to come and match the defense call to that formation. Then the next guy would have to come and put the first steps of all 11 players on offense for the play that I called, and then defense would have to come and show the initial reaction to the defense and so on. And we go through 4 or 5 guys, and watching young coaches and old coaches all go through trying to keep track of 11 players. It was hilarious sometimes.
Well,
Hard
Coach,
on some guys, but it was a great coaching tool, and they knew it was coming, and they didn't want to be embarrassed, so they studied like hell for the 3 days prior.
You were successful everywhere you coached, and that's one of the reasons, what you just said.
Oh, yeah, and it worked out really well. We had our ups and our downs. I would say we were better than most and not as good as a couple.
That's pretty good.
But
thanks, Coach.
Thank you very much, Randy. Have a nice weekend.
You too. Thanks for joining us at the Captain's Table.